Alright, hello folks, it's Typhoon Carter here. If you're wondering, oh hey, why is the tier shift video so late into a month? Well, there's a couple reasons. For one, if you see the screen right now, basically shifts have kind of moved, like all the other tiers have finally settled down, so you know, they're gonna be doing shifts in 3-month cycles, so this means that I don't feel as rushed. And also because I was trying to think of how I wanted to go about this. And luckily there is no shortage of, or at least there's some material for me to work with. So I'm just gonna get right into April usage. So what's been going on? Obviously nothing has changed yet, although there are 3-month shift projections if you want to call it that. My team did win UUPL, so I feel very happy about that. But that aside though, if you're looking at in terms of like, you know, what mons have been thriving and whatnot, and what's changed, well, for starters, Pellet Burst specifically got banned a while back, not that long ago. So this at least eases up the constraint of like team building, in my opinion. The only other thing really right now in the tier that kind of sucks for the tier / should be probably looked at is maybe Komo, but I will talk about Komo a little bit later and why it's like not really healthy. But right now, usage stats like Excadrill, Zapdos, Low Kicks, Latios, Hydrapple. Hydrapple had a very huge shift in terms of how its usage was. Like, it was decently used in like March, but then going into April, you know, this was like, you know, rain was being used a bunch, and then or at least for a while, and then people adapted to it by using like Hydrapple Slowking King for a bit. It was also used to check Iron Boulder when it was in the tier for a little bit, which still had 10% usage. So yeah, it was like banned about halfway through a month. So we got that going. Hydrapple is also just like a really hard to kill Pokemon, I think. You know, like very hard to kill, especially when you factor in Terra. The common Terra types it's been running is like, to my knowledge, it's Terra Fairy and Terra Steel. That's the two. That's like some of the notable ones that I have seen. There's obviously other options, like I don't know. You could go pure Terra Dragon, like if you're like into specs or something like that. But that aside, though, you know, and also like it has Regenerator and it can run Recover if it wants to, but you know, like Grass Move, like stabs plus Earth Power basically covers the entire metagame, and it also has Nasty Plot, so it's like not like fucking passive. So you know, you got that going for it. Torn, very popular. Ogre Pond, Rock Pond has been a pretty popular mon in general. Very hard to switch into, not a lot can deal with it, and it has enough coverage options to at least like force you to have to maybe second guess at times. Like for example, it has Play Rough. Like normally Como, if it didn't have that, like Como would kind of just sit, at least offensive variants of Como would just really sit on it comfortably and then just destroy it. But it has to be wary of Play Rough, etc. Slowking, you know, does Slowking things. You know, it's got Chilly Reception. It's gonna like, you know, change the weather. It's gonna do like Scald things. Right now, the most popular Slowking set is Chilly Reception, Scald, T-Wave, Slack Off. Some people, like me, might try, like, you know, Future Sight over T-Wave, but T-Wave does have some nice utility. However, with that being said, though, it means that you're gonna open yourself up to certain, like Mono Slowking. My issue with it at times is that it will open itself up to certain things that normally it should have no problem checking, such as Keldeo. Like it can check specs Keldeo no problem, but like if you start seeing like sub CM Keldeo, then like, you know, you might run into some problems. There's also like, you know, substitute Como again, like that's something I'll talk about later. But yeah, so it can't open, so you know, there's like a bit of a decision you have to make. Like some people really hate like, you know, quote, not being able to punish Torn T with like say T-Wave, etc. But that's a matter of preference. And then Scizor, you know, it's doing Scizor things. Iron Crown's pretty popular because it can kind of like AV Crown can be like a pretty decent check to some stuff. like it's not terrible into like, you know, Tornadus, for example, or at least you won't feel bad about it. And then it can still like quote unquote have a pseudo taunt with psychic noise, which can disable mons such as Toxapex from recovering. It can't really do that to Mandibuzz, but like Mandibuzz doesn't really like eating a Tachyon killer anyways. So, you know, like there's that going on. Arcanine Hisui has been a little bit more popular by the day because like it can punish stuff like Zapdos or Torn T very well. Zapdos can only really Volt Switch on it. Tyranitar, that was mostly popular because of sand and like being able to deal with weather easily, and also like just if you're running defensive Tarv and like it's a really good zap check and it can just annoy you with stuff like knockoff. Something to note is that sometimes Tyranitar actually does run Ice Punch, mostly to deal with Hydrapple. Yeah, Hydrapple is that centralized of a force. Metagross, you got like CB Gross, AV Gross is still okay. So like, you know, a lot of these are stuff that doesn't really surprise anybody, like Tinkaton, Rotom Wash to me is like, seeing it have this much usage is really weird because I feel like Rotom Wash is, or at least was not that good in the meta, because like, you know, Excadrill's existence, like because a lot of Excadrills run Mold Breaker, it's like Rotom Wash kind of has to be a little careful, or it has to run Ability Shield or something whack like that. So like it's kind of like a fake ground immune in that sense. And Dirge has been picking up in usage to deal with Como-O. Do not run fucking Alluring Voice as your Como-O check, because it won't, because if it turns out to be soundproof, which is generally, at least the general consensus, to be Como-O's better ability per se, then you are just not going to check at all. Just like stick to, yeah, like just stick to like Wisp, Hex, Torch Song, you know, that kind of thing. You're not gonna feel too bad about it if you just stick to that. But yeah, please do not run Alluring Voice for Como-O. It is fake as fuck, and like it is just whack. Mammal has decent usage. Like it's always been decent on paper, and in practice it's not bad either, but like it can threaten a lot in the builder. Like if you're building, like say like a balance or whatever, like Mammal Swine is something you do have to like consider, or at least have a game plan to deal with, because like, you know, if you're running into a Trailblaze set, then like things can't really get out of hand, and like your waters aren't really actual answers anymore. So, you know, there's that you gotta consider. And then like a lot of Mouse Swines went Terra Grass, so this means something like Rotom Wash, Slowking. Slowking is a little bit dubious into checking Mouse Swine. Like at least you could try to play for a Scalp Burn, but you have to be very careful about dealing with Mouse Swine. If it's like CB is a bit on the rare side. Nevermelt Ice. I've also seen people try like Muscle Band, even Assault Vest, for example. So there's that. And then Rhyperior, that's currently listed as an NU mon, has 7% usage in UU, so it's very much a staple. A big reason why it's risen is because, again, really good Zapdos check. And yeah, see a common theme here, like Zapdos is just a very important mon that you have to be able to deal with, and Rhyperior cat just sits on all its common coverage options. And then, you know, like the typical Rhyperior set is like, you know, Rocks, SD, Edgequake, but some people might drop Rocks on Rhyperior and do like SD, Edgequake plus Mega Horn or Ice Punch, but Mega Horn just hits a lot more in general. Yeah, like you'll run your 16 Adamant EVs, although in my opinion, I think you could afford to go like a couple extra EVs, like I don't know, say 60, because like that's a benchmark where you could kind of nail Hydrapple for really good damage, or at least like Bolt 252 to max Hydrapple for, I think you could like actually 2-hit KO it, and then you would run some speed on Rhyperior just to outspeed some defensive walls, but that's like mostly player preference. But yeah, it's very good. It can either be your rocker, or you can be a very threatening sword stance monster that can just shred apart fat teams. Ursaluna, right below Rhyperior, a really good pick in the meta right now because it is great at punishing those regen balances I was talking about earlier with like your Slow Kings, Tornadus, Varian, and Hydrapple. Like, you know, that's a very classic triple regen core, or you might see some variations of triple regen that runs like Toxapex, Hydrapple, Torn, for example. Like, yeah, Ursaluna, it will, like, you get like something like a Slow King to bring it in and proc its Flame Orb, and then you're killing stuff. Like, something's getting dropped. Cobalion has been slowly rising through the ranks. It's a mon that has it has a decent speed tier. It can set rocks, it can like taunt, like it has a lot of great utility moves, kind of like what it did in previous generations of UU. Just really good mon in general, like a glue mon if you want to call it that. Hippowdon's also been kind of on the rise. RU would not be too happy if we took that from them, but the thing with Hippo is that it's just really good at just simply being like a fat sand setter that can kind of be okay into some variations of Como, namely physical variants of Como. So there's that, and you know, everything else, Hydreigon niche pick, Weezing sucks, should be RU by now, but you know, so that's what's going on. I'm gonna go into the 3-month projected shifts so I can talk a little bit about what it would probably mean for the tier right now, like if it were to happen today. Iron Crown, if it did move up to UU to OU, it means a couple things. One, it actually means Psychic Terrain. Yes, a very valid team style now because Rain is banned. That would mean that Iron Crown would, a staple on Psychic Terrain teams, would be like a huge blow. That'd be very rough for Psy Terrain teams to have to deal with, like losing a free Expanding Force mon. Because like, if you want an idea of how absurd this thing hits, like under Psy Terrain, like it will shred through. If you Terra Psychic, you will shred through a Skeledirge with no problem under Psy Terrain. Like, it cannot do anything about it. And then like, if it say tries to switch to Terra that resists that, it's like, well, yeah, now you open up to like its coverage. Barraskewda moving up to RU to UU, that's kind of fake because it's tied into Rain's Viability. Rhyperior moving from NU to UU is actually something that could be very real. Rimbombi, that'd be if it came down from OU UU, that would kind of just mean like, oh, another HO lead, I guess. So there's that. Although if Superior came along with it, that'd be really funny, because like Superior would actually be a super powerful Sticky Webs Punisher. Sure, like you could run like Specs or something, to be honest, like as a Webs fish, but you'd probably do Scarf. And then you'd use like Stellar Terra and then click Terra Blast or Leaf Storm and get a free boost. I mean, Terra Blast with Stellar is like just powerful neutral stab that would hit everything for neutral damage. Like, you're not gonna be shredding stuff, but it'd be really stupid. Torkoal OU to UU, that would be very fun for UU, but because, so for a little bit of context, UU has actually had Torkoal in the tier 2 times previously. First time was way back when we barely had any viable chlorophyll abusers. I think our most noble one was like fucking Brute Bonnet, Sandy Shocks, and I guess like Skull Villain, which, yeah, that's ancient, like by SV standards, or at least SVUU standards. This is like way back in the UPL from, I guess, like over a year ago now. It was in there for 1 month and it left. And then, but we did have it in DLC 1 where it actually saw a moderate amount of success in the tier. Because, like, you know, you had Hisuian Arcanine, in my opinion, was a mon that really helped salvage Sun as a playstyle, because you had a very good wall breaker that could actually help you make progress with that kind of style. And then you had Pokemon such as Hisui Lilligant that was around, and you could do like Victory Dance with Terra Fire to like block Will-O-Wisp, and then you would just sometimes win games on the spot. I actually did make a Sun team for Gondra back in or not Snake One, but like the last UU Snake Draft tour where he like basically like farmed his opponent. So you know, you'd have Lilligant, you'd also have something like Sandy Shocks. He'll run specs, but I don't really like specs on shocks, like on Sun. I would prefer just doing boots with like, you know, booster speed, and then you could run some nice coverage like, you know, Earth Power, Power Gem, Volt Switch, T-Bolt, that kind of thing. Like, it's very simple, it gets the job done, and you know, it's just a very good mon. A Slitherwing would be very powerful, etc. Right? Although during that time, the other important thing for Sun, though, if Torkoal did come down today, was that it would be a rapid spinner and a rocker in one slot. You don't have to waste a slot on like a Iron Treads or something back in DLC 1. Yeah, geez, that sounds really weird to say now. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie, I actually do miss Iron Treads in UU, but you know, Excadrill will have to do. Yeah, so that's what's going on. And then Hawlucha, UU, RUBL, to be honest, I do not see this happening, because side terrain should be going back up in viability, like now that rain is gone. Indeed, you can move to UU to NU. Yeah, I don't buy that at all. Weezing UU to RU, I can actually see that happening, because like it just feels really mediocre, if not just downright bad, like as a defensive staple. But hey, you know, that's that. Speaking of Pokemon's viability, they did do a viability ranking update a while back. I'm going to talk about that a little bit briefly. Alright, so we are here. I'm just going to scroll down. Now, kind of talk a little bit about some of the things like that I think they updated. Hydrapple's risen up in A+ rank. To be honest, I think that's actually too low. I think it should actually be an S-. It should be right next to Zapdos. Because I think like in the builder, when you're building for this tier, the thing is, Hydrapple is a threat that you absolutely need to have a method for breaking, or at least multiple ways of breaking. Because like it is so stupid in the builder to deal with. Like, it's just annoying. It does not die. Like U-turn, like Bandit Scissor U-turns bounce off it more or less. And like the only way you're like destroying this thing is with like, you know, a nasty plot Tornadus. Tornti again, which is got an S, very deserving of it. Excadrill, easy roll compressor. With Excadrill you can run Sash rock sets on like HO. You could run loaded dice with Rock Blast, SD Rock Blast, loaded dice. You know, you could do SD Iron Head EQ, Q Rapid Spin. Like, there's a lot you can do. You have at least a few options with Excadrill, and you can either do Mold Breaker or Sand Rush too. Like, even Sand Force is like not really the worst idea ever, but like that's not really relevant to my point. But and then Tornti, its best set right now is definitely AV, because you have a soft Grand Check. I say soft, not reliable, but a soft one. At least like if you pair it with like another soft Grand Check, then it will get the job done. Very annoying to kill. And then you also have like nasty plot sets. It can actually beat pokes like Zap, which in theory should always check it. This is mostly because of techs such as Water Ball. Like, if you're running nasty plot Water Ball on Tornti, and then you're running it on double water with, say, Tyranitar or Slowking, then your Water Balls will almost always nail Zap effectively, and it is not hard to get either Weather to stay up if you're like boosted and you just destroy Zap on the spot. But even like without nasty plot, it's like you still nail Zap for a 2-hit KO. It is very stupid. And then you obviously have other coverage options too, like Heat Wave, Sludge, that kind of thing. Low kicks, centralizing Mon, everybody knows what it does. First impression, U-turn, knock, sucker. Some people like Pangui might run like first impression, leech life, U-turn, sucker, etc. Like, take your pick. Although he runs it with, I think, Silver Powder. Yeah, that's like kind of an infamous set now. Now that a lot of people kind of just associate that set with him. Yeah. and like Tinted Lens is just crazy as an ability. Like there's not a lot that can reliably check it. Like yeah, you can at least try to punish it with something like static bulky Zapdos or say a Rhyperior, but even then it's like right. Greninja, Ironcrab. Okay, Como in my opinion way too low. This should be an A+. This should be an A+, zero question. Like you want to know why? Like here's the thing, right? It has like what, 2 perfectly viable abilities in Bulletproof, Soundproof. So this means that it will have a random immunity to something that's relevant in the tier. If it's Bulletproof, like it will just randomly, like all of a sudden, like if you thought you were gonna nail Como with your fucking weather balls, like yeah, congratulations, no longer works because Bulletproof happened. And then like if it's Soundproof, like oh, you tried Alluring Voice, don't use that on Dirge. But like all of a sudden it's like you don't check this anymore. Like you cannot hit it. You have to actually guess which ability it is, and then that doesn't even go into like the possible offensive sets it can run. Like you're gonna run DD Taunt with like Drain Punch, Thunder Punch, right? You can do Clangorous Soul with Substitute on that. You could do Clangorous Taunt if you want to, and then you could do special variations of Clangorous Soul Como with like Throat Spray, and then you just instead like your physical defensive walls that should check it, all of a sudden like kind of get shredded by like a Terra Normal Boom Burst, or like you know a Clanging Scales. And that doesn't even go into like the other actual healthy sets in the tier, like you know a defensive Como with Body Press Rocks and stuff, which lets it check some things really nicely. And funny thing is that it actually lets it eat a Dark Pulse from Greninja into an Ice Beam and trade for it if you're running the defensive spread. You also have variations that can run Eject Pack with like Clanging Scales or Draco Meteor. Well, probably Clanging Scales, but if you run Draco Meteor, it's probably for opposing Como in the mirror match. But you know, like there's a lot. Yeah, no, this is too low, brother. I don't know. I think the VR people are sleeping on this mon a little too much. A is too low. It is so centralizing. It should be an A+. Like you have to account for this in the builder because, and here's the thing, like its counterplay is not very reliable. Like there's not many things that can reliably blanket or at least kind of check it. The only thing holding it back right now is maybe its speed tier is a little bit on the lower side. Like it's what, 295, 5 or 269, 9. So like, you know, Scarfers can get the jump on it. But even then, it's like, yo, this, and then like it's crazy stupid how like what could be otherwise decently built teams just lose to it on the spot. Yeah, no, it's stupid. I think it should be suspected, but you know, I don't know. Like maybe the people on council don't think so. I mean, I certainly hope not, but seriously, I can tell you that like the player base is also not really happy with Como being in the tier. To be honest, it should have been banned a long time ago, but you know, that's okay. It's never too late. Alright, Hisuian Arcanine, again, big threat. Like, yeah, you can do CB, but CB, depending on who you ask, like some people might think it's a little too greedy, and some people don't really like missing their head smashes or being locked into a head smash. Utility Rocks is not bad. Ogrebon Cornerstone, I think this actually dropped from A. I don't completely agree with this. I think it is, like, yeah, it's a little easier play around Sturdy, like that's fair, but I think like it is one of those things that you just cannot disrespect. Like I think it's like to me, A tier mons are like mons that you absolutely need to have a way to deal with in the builder no matter what, especially if it's an offensive mon. Like that's just my opinion, but hey, you're free to disagree. But Hippo's been rising up. Like if you're doing like, you know, fat teams with like Hippo fat with sand and stuff, like it doesn't feel too bad. Mandibuzz a little bit passive, but it is good at what it does, being a defog remover. Like, I mean, it's okay. When you look at the hazard removal we have in the tier, our options are Excadrill, which is again perfectly good mon. Like, good mons are good. It's gonna do its good things. Yeah, thanks, Sherlock. And then you have like Mandibuzz, which is defog, but that can be a momentum sink on some teams, right? Grass Pond, I think this actually dropped. I don't completely agree with this because I think there's actually a lot of value to be had from Terra Grass Encore. Or like having a free speed boost no matter what. Yeah, sure, it costs a Terra, but I think it can be worth it on some teams. Like, for example, if you come in on like a Como that like decides to set up in your face, like, it is so important to be able to get that Encore off with like Terra. Like, for example, if it's Clanger Sullen, like, you could Encore that thing and then now it cannot beat you, right? Like, it's a good mon, although it's a bit of a pivot bot, so I get why some people might think it's a little overvalued otherwise. But you know, like Ivy Cudgel, like with Terra boost, like still hits really hard for what it's worth, but it is what it is. Shock's been kind of like on the rise a little bit, mostly because it can be an okay Zapdos check, or at least you won't feel too bad about it. And it still does its usual thing that's always done with like Terra Blast coverage, Terra Grass or Terra Ice. Like, it's not really like, you know, it's not like the ban where we fret that was way back in like pre-home, but still very good mon. You can't go wrong with it. Ursaluna, yeah, like most of these make sense. Keldeo, I think sub CM sets might have a little bit of warranted use, but that's only because it's taking advantage of a common trend in Slowking sets, which I think is questionable, but you know, it is what it is. Zarude, it's been doing okay. I think I've seen it during the UU ladder tour. I am gonna play in cycle free probably, but you know, it's very, very solid mon. And you know, everything else here, like, you know, Halucha, I think that could rise. Like I think Indeedee is like what, in C+. Yeah, that could go up soon. Yeah, so Metagross has been taking a bit of a hit in viability. It's just not what it used to be, but CB Heavy Slam still goes crazy. With that being said though, I'm going to actually wrap this up here. I'm going to see you guys next time.